Hello students, today we are going to begin a new poem. Okay, what is the name of the poem? Bedtime. Chapter 8, Bedtime. That is the name of the poem. So today we shall learn the poem. So before I begin the poem, I have to tell you something that you will be learning the 8 lines of the poem. You have to memorize the 8 lines of the poem. Okay, so I will say before I read out the poem, I will tell you the summary of the poem so that you will understand what is it. Okay, the poem Bedtime reminds us how we prepare ourselves to go to bed for the good night sleep. You understood, no? The poem Bedtime reminds us how we prepare ourselves to go to bed for a good night's sleep. So in the first stanza when we read, we see that it is evening. The sun has set. The birds are going back to their day's work and to go to their next to play with their children and to take a good night sleep. And the birds flies over the little people's head and it says, what it says? The little people, it is time to go, we are going to bed. Okay? So what the birds are telling to the little people? Little people, it is time to go to bed. And the next stanza when we read, we see that all the flowers, it is mentioned about the flowers. There are so many flowers name it is written. Okay, what is the flowers name they have written? Prime rose, daisy, the red rose. These are the flowers it is written. We will see when we read this poem. So, okay, the second stanza of the poem, it tells us that all the flowers are closing their petals in order to sleep. All the flowers are closing their petals in order to sleep. Like daisy, prime rose and red rose, all are buried in their good sleep. Okay, they are already, some of the flowers are already closed their petals and they are in deep sleep. That is what the poetry is telling. So when we read out the third stanza of the poem, it says that all the birds and insects have come back after the day's work and have fed their young ones and now they are going to sleep. So all the insects, all the birds, all the flowers, all have come back after the day's work and they are fed there. They have given the food for their young ones and they are going to sleep. They are already, some of them are already asleep. So at the last stanza, the poet is telling us that the good night to all children. So they are telling us, each one of us, that good night to all children and wishes them sweet dreams till the morning. So wishes them sweet dreams till the morning. So we shall read the stanza ways, line ways, I will explain to you. The evening is coming. The sun sinks to rest. Sinks means to go down under the surface. Already it is sunset. The rooks are flying. The rook means a crow. Straight home to their nest. Caw, caw, says the rook. He flies overhead. It's time, little people, we are going to bed. So, here it is telling that the birds are telling, going back to their nest. And it says to after the day's work, they are going back to their children, they are going back to their family and they are flying over the head of the little people and it says that, dear little people, it is time to go to bed. We are already going to bed. It is time you also go to bed. That is what the first stanza, 8 lines of the poem tells us. Okay, it's a very simple poem and you can understand very well. So the second stanza of the poem, we told already the second stanza is talking about the flowers. The flowers are all closing. The daisy is asleep. The prime rose is buried. the slumbers to sleep, and closed for the night. Are the roses so red? It's time, little people, we are going to bed. So these are the flowers name. It is written primrose, okay, and red rose, daisy, okay. So slumber means asleep, buried means already slept, deep sleep, okay. So it is telling that in this stanza it is telling that all the flowers are closing their petals in order to sleep. Like daisy, primrose and rose flowers are already buried in their sleep. So they have already slept and they are telling to the little people, okay, dear little people, it is time to sleep. So they are also inviting the little people, it is time to sleep. Okay, these are the 16 lines of the poem what I have taught you today, dear children. Okay, you have to read the poem again and again and understand the poem, find out the difficult words. I also have written on the board and it's already in the textbook. You will be writing it in the fair copy and learning the 8 lines of the poem and the word meaning. Thank you children for listening.